Well, welcome back to my channel, everybody, and a warm welcome, whether you're new or old. I wish you all a grand day rising. Now, this video is something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking today about anti-inflammatory diets. Now, this is at the request of Simply Just Krista, who's been putting out some really good podcasts and vlogs about her healing journey, and she asked me if I would like to share my journey with anti-inflammatory diet. I've had various issues for most of my life, so I'm only too happy to do so. So here we are. I'll also give a shout out at this point to Sherry at Grow Joyfully Home and Garden. Sherry, you might find this useful too. So first of all, about the anti-inflammatory diet. This can be used to tackle a whole raft of problems. You might have circulatory issues or heart problems, swollen legs and feet, varicose veins. I've had varicose veins since I was 28. I was dancing for the best part of the first 40 odd years of my life, and often in high heels, although mine are now much reduced. In one leg they completely disappeared, in the other they're a lot better. I also invested in a grounding sheet or grounding mat, and that has helped a lot too. Now, an anti-inflammatory diet can also be useful if you have fibromyalgia, which is an autoimmune condition, arthritis, whether osteo or rheumatoid, and ulcerative colitis, celiac disease, inflammatory bowel diseases that I haven't already mentioned, like diverticulitis, irritable bowel syndrome, and many other conditions. Now, in my case, I have had chronic fatigue syndrome for over 20 years. I used to have a benign pituitary tumour, and one of the ways in which it manifested was to give me chronic fatigue. Later, I developed quite a lot of pain as well, especially in the upper body, and in 2015, my lovely GP at the time diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. I've also got a rather sensitive tummy. Both my parents had diverticulitis. For years, my mum was told she had IBS, as was I, and it turned out to be diverticulitis, and this was diagnosed towards the end of her life. My father contracted amoebic dysentery during a work trip to Turkey. He was a metallurgist and specialised in mining, and he started to come down ill on the flight home, and he was diagnosed with amoebic dysentery, and then later this set off diverticulitis, and one of his first cousins also has diverticulitis. Now, I find I can't eat really fibrous things. Fibre is good for everybody, and I can take high fibre foods in a gentler form, but one of the things I cannot manage to digest through my system is globe artichokes. They are too fibrous. I remember having some once in New York with a friend, a lovely plate of globe artichokes with garlic and olive oil at an Italian restaurant in the Lower East Side. I'd never had them before. Well, about 5 a.m. the next day, I started to come down really unwell in my hotel room, and just let's say I paid 3 visits to the bathroom. I was in excruciating agony, and that's how I found out I couldn't eat those really fibrous foods. Other things that can set off problems are wine. Wine doesn't necessarily agree with me at all. It does depend. I find if I do want a glass of wine, I usually water it down with something like soda, and I'm fine. But if I drink maybe a glass or two of neat wine, then it's going to go through me. So bear in mind that if you're going to pursue an anti-inflammatory diet, it doesn't look the same for any two of us. It's an individual thing. So one of the things to do is to find out what works for you and what doesn't. Listen to your body. How does your body react when you eat a certain food? If there's something that you don't like out of the best foods for an anti-inflammatory diet, then substitute it for something that you do like. Now, some anti-inflammatory diet lists list things like peppers and aubergines and tomatoes and potatoes as being okay. However, again, we're all different. Especially if you've got something like fibromyalgia or arthritis, those things, the nightshades, can set it off. Now, one of the worst things for me out of that list of nightshades is peppers. They do not really agree with me, in particular raw. If I have them, say, roasted in garlic and olive oil, the Italian way, then I find I'm okay. But I do tend to limit the quantity of peppers I might have, say, in a salad or at meal times. They do have good health benefits, but for some of us, we need to be aware of that. I'm not too bad with tomatoes. I've eaten tomatoes for most of my life. The same with potatoes. I've always eaten them, but I just make sure these days that I don't overindulge, because there again, especially if the tomatoes are acidic, they can make my arthritis a little bit worse. I've got arthritis in the lower spine. I have a degenerative spine which runs in the family, so a lot of us have twisted spines. And I also have RA in the hands, and as I play piano, you know, it can be quite a thing. I've struggled a lot this year in the heat. I have to try and move my fingers, massage them. I find doing a bit of Tai Chi and Qigong will help, but tomatoes in particular can be a bit problematic at times, and the heat. Potatoes, I don't eat as many as I used to. Sweet potatoes are a good option and they're lower on the glycemic index. So to round that up, learn to listen to your body and note any allergies and intolerances. I have made a few notes, so I might look down occasionally. I'm going to put up a list of things that are beneficial to the anti-inflammatory diet, and I will just talk about a few of them as well. So I'll see you back in a minute. So let's look at avocado first. Avocado, it took me a while to get used to eating it. I think the ones from the supermarket, a lot of them were not good. But 7 years ago, when Dan and I went to La Gomera on holiday, we had the local avocados and my taste for them was transformed, and I've liked them ever since. They're a really good source of nutrition for promoting heart health. They help to reduce LDL, the bad cholesterol, and increase the good cholesterol. Remember, we do need cholesterol for our brains. Our brains are made of 90% cholesterol. And especially as we get older, we need to be looking after our cognitive health. They also help with digestive wellness of the whole tract and with weight management. They've got vitamin K, which is good for bone health, and they contain lutein for good eye health. Now, I take a lutein supplement. I was diagnosed a couple of years ago with cataracts in both eyes, but last time I went to the optician, which was about 6 months ago, I'm on an 18-month list, the cataracts are barely there at all. And I have this daily supplement which includes wolfberry, obviously vitamin C, zinc and omega-3. There's hardly any cataract in either eye, so it really does help. And it might also help with other eye problems as well. It's anti-inflammatory, it contains anti-cancer compounds, and it's good for blood sugar control, fibre and monounsaturated fats, potassium and magnesium, which we need for heart health and blood pressure. Avocados contain high fibre, which promotes healthy gut biome, bone health, cognitive function, blood sugar regulation and skin. So if you like avocados in whatever form, whether it's in a salad or if you like guacamole, go for it. Have them for breakfast, lunch, dinner, whenever you fancy avocado, don't hold back. I'm finding at the moment that avocados are a really good price in our local supermarket. I also get them from the local greengrocer who does 2 for £1, which is unbeatable. So I make sure every week that I stock up. I have probably half an avocado every day. I find for me that's enough. The actress Dame Joan Collins has an avocado every day and she's 93 and she has great skin. Now another food I'm going to discuss briefly is butternut squash. Now it's another really versatile food. You can have it roasted in salads, you could barbecue it, or you could just roast it and serve it alongside maybe some salmon, or you can make yummy soups. You can incorporate them in stews as well. The butternut squash contains vitamins A, C and E, ACE, the really important 3, A, C, E. And carotenoids, like carrots, such as beta-carotene, lutein again, and zeaxanthin, which helps to support your immune function and reduce inflammation and promote good eye health. High polyphenol consumption within your anti-inflammatory diet is also really important. So following, for example, a Mediterranean diet is very beneficial. So we're talking extra virgin olive oil, olives, fresh herbs. In particular, rosemary and sage contain the most polyphenols. Berries, wide range of berries to choose from. Dark chocolate or cocoa, 85% plus if possible, organic or fair trade if possible. I find that's a bit too bitter for me. I've got the bitter taste gene, but I usually go for, say, 72% dark chocolate. Spices, so ginger, turmeric, garlic. The enzymes in turmeric benefit immensely from being alongside something like garlic or ginger. Ginger goes really well, and they're from the same family as well. So just peel it with the back of your teaspoon, and then if you want to prep it, fine, but leave it resting, and garlic, for at least 20 minutes on your chopping board before you add it to your other ingredients. That helps all the enzymes to be released. Tea, especially green tea, is good for you, and other herbal teas of your choice. Beans and lentils and other pulses. Vegetables, but not spinach. Spinach is an anti-inflammatory inhibitor. So if you do like spinach, just eat it occasionally. I use beetroot leaves from the garden. You could also use chard, but that's also related to the spinach plant, so just go easy. And cloves, which is a high oxidant spice. Then I'm going to look at a couple of nuts briefly. So we've got walnuts, which are high in omega-3. There's 2.5 grams per 25 gram serving, which meets daily recommended intake for adults. Walnuts contain antioxidants, vitamin E, fibre, melatonin, which are all good for the skin and help to combat oxidative stress and inflammation. And they also contain polyphenols. Regular walnut intake, a daily intake of 30 to 60 grams, can help to lower LDL, the bad cholesterol, which improves blood vessel function and lowers the risk of heart disease. And then chestnuts, these are gluten-free, so you can make cakes, for example, with chestnut flour. You can make a really yummy chocolate cake with chestnut flour, although I do find it's best paired with another flour as well, because it can be a bit cloying. Rich in vitamin C, low in fat and high in complex carbohydrates, which makes them closer to whole grains than walnuts or almonds. And they're also high in dietary fibre. So on to broccoli for a moment. Broccoli is one of those foods which actually helps the body to produce its own collagen. Collagen is so important. So bone broths, for example, or fish broth, or use fish stocks or chicken stocks in your cooking. And eggs are also highly beneficial, as well as containing vitamin D and a good source of iron and other vitamins and minerals. They're one of the few foods that contains choline, which is essential for healthy brain function. Especially as we get older, we need to be looking after our grey matter. I'm going to talk about the benefits of raw dairy. I have a subscription every couple of months here in the UK from dairy in Suffolk called Fen Farm. It's natural, it's been produced with minimum processing. If you don't like the idea of unpasteurised, some people still have reservations about it, go for locally sourced, locally produced dairy from a farm rather than a supermarket or a farm shop, and organic if you possibly can. Now, some people have a problem with A1 proteins. A2 is much better for those who are lactose intolerant. There's quite a few cheeses that you can enjoy if you have lactose problems. Until I started doing homeopathy a couple of years ago, I was not able to tolerate lactose very well at all. Now I'm a lot better, and I just take an arsenicum album tablet once or twice a week. Cheeses that are low lactose are often sheep or goat, although you can get some A2 bovine protein as well. So Parmesan, Grana Padano, cottage cheese has barely any lactose in at all. So if you like cheese and a mild cheese, and it is very healthy, and cottage cheese is a good one to go for. Full fat is better than reduced fat because it's been through less processing. Feta cheese, sharp or mature cheddar, manchego is really good as well as the raw cheeses, if you don't mind eating unpasteurised. Comté, for example, the French cheese, that's unpasteurised, but there's lots to be found. We've got it here in the UK, Canterbury Cheese Company, they do a nice range of pasteurised and unpasteurised cheeses. So raw dairy, organic dairy are gut healing foods, along with other pre and probiotics such as kefir, Greek yogurt, full fat, ferments such as kimchi and sauerkraut, and apple cider vinegar, raw apple cider vinegar, not the processed stuff. You want the stuff with the mother, that cloudy stuff in the bottom. You can make all of them at home. I think I do have 1 or 2 recipes in my vault, but I will now put up a recipe for you to enjoy on beetroot and cabbage kimchi. Wash and finely slice a cabbage, preferably organic, and make sure you reserve one of the outer leaves because you'll need it later. When you've chopped the cabbage, you need to weigh it. Then tip it into a big glass or earthenware bowl. Wash, peel and finely slice some either homegrown or organic beetroot. I slice it into very thin julienne strips. You can also grate it if you prefer. Then that also gets weighed and added to the bowl with the cabbage in. Add together the weight of the cabbage and the weight of the beetroot, then divide by 100 and then multiply by 3. You want no more than 3% of the weight of the vegetables in salt. So if, for example, you've got 500 grams of cabbage and beetroot combined, you want 15 grams of pure kosher sea salt. Pop on a pair of disposable gloves if you like, and then give everything a good mix and massage and mulch together in the bowl. This helps to release any natural juices from the cabbage and the beetroot and release all those healthy enzymes. Once you've done that, you can add any little extras. I'm adding a couple of teaspoons of cumin seeds and then giving everything a stir around. Then set aside your bowl for about half an hour to an hour to marinate. Cover it over with a clean tea cloth or some plastic wrap. You can also place the bowl of goodies in the refrigerator overnight. Whilst the vegetables are marinating, I'm peeling some homegrown garlic and I'll let that rest on the chopping board, and I'm going to add that as I fill the jar with the cabbage and beetroot mixture. I put some of the vegetables in the bottom of the jar, then a couple of cloves of garlic, and build it up like that in layers. During this process, you can use the handle of a wooden spoon or the bowl of the wooden spoon to squash everything down in the jar to compact it as much as possible. That way you'll get more air, there'll be less air to get to the ferment as well, so you'll have a cleaner ferment. You want to leave a bit of a gap between the top of the jar and the rim to allow for the cabbage plug. And when you've compacted everything and you can't get any more in, you top the jar up with spring water and then you place the cabbage plug on top and press it down well, and make sure that that too is covered by water. Don't use tap water, only use spring or mineral water or well filtered water. Don't forget as well to include any of the juices that are bleached from the beetroot and cabbage. And then place the jar in a cool place for at least a week to ferment. If possible, daily, unscrew the lid maybe halfway to allow any of the juices to leach out. You'll hear a little hiss.
It's nice. I'll taste a bit. It smells nice. That's really nice. Slightly salty, got a bit of a punch to it.
Can you taste the garlic?
Yes, I can.
I can smell it. You happy with that?
Yeah.
So, what can you do? Well, one of the things you can do is read labels of ingredients. One of the things that's been talked about a lot at the moment in the UK is putting folic acid, as mandated by the government, into flour, bread, pasta and baked goods like cakes and biscuits and pastry. It's becoming a real problem because folic acid, or synthetic folic acid, SFA as it's otherwise known, is a medicine, and there's a number of groups of people, including those of us with allergies or an autoimmune condition, or who've been through cancer, or who've maybe had heart problems or a stroke, or might have a stent, must avoid folic acid. But they're medicating the whole nation for the sake of 200 born with spina bifida every year. There's no guidance on recommended daily intake, and if you have a few things with SFA where there is a recommended daily intake mentioned, you could be superseding that by as much as maybe 6, 10, even 20 times in a day, and that causes a build-up and you can actually become really sick from consuming such things. We just don't know. This is my story, not fact. Please do your own research. Now, reading the backs of packets, especially when the writing is small, is really hard work, but it's so important. I get my flour from France and I bake my own bread and cakes and pastry. Artisans are exempt from it, so you might be able to find folic acid free goodies from an independent artisan baker, but of course that costs quite a lot of money. It all adds up. A lot of white flour isn't good for any of us anyway. Let's be honest about this. It's important to go in for clean eating as much as possible in an anti-inflammatory diet. And this includes things like coffee. Make sure that you have Arabica coffee, preferably organic and or fair trade. Robusta coffee tends to be produced in industrial scale plants and probably has a lot of toxins in. You want the Arabica bean because that doesn't have the toxins in. You want to go more towards a lower carb diet if possible, especially the starchy carbohydrates like potatoes and white flour. However, eating carbs after exercise, even starchy carbs, to replace glycogen levels is really important. The muscles use glycogen as the primary fuel source for exercise. Research has shown that eating 0.5 to 1.2 grams of carbohydrate per kilo of your body weight after exercise helps to reduce muscle breakdown and enhance recovery for better performance in subsequent exercise. High glycemic carbs such as white bread, rice, potatoes or pasta and other glucose-based foods are particularly effective because they're rapidly absorbed and available for glycogen synthesis. So you could, after exercise, maybe have a small portion of white rice or potatoes, or some nice sourdough bread alongside your avocado and scrambled eggs and whatever else you might like on your plate, like some meat and broccoli or watercress, rocket, that kind of thing. It is really important for all of us to support our general health, to try and get some kind of exercise. Even if you're very overweight or immobile, we can do little bits of exercise such as chair tai chi or chair yoga, and then gradually you'll build up strength and resistance, and you'll be able to do more over time. Just take it gently though, just be patient. Or we can go out in our garden, or maybe do a little bit of walking, gentle walking or swimming, and that all helps us with our overall health and well-being, and it helps to lower our blood pressure as well. Hypertension is one of the main factors that triggers stroke and heart attacks. You might find that intermittent fasting helps. So if you finish your evening meal maybe at 6 or 7 p.m, initially see if you can go, say, 16 hours. So you don't eat the following day until towards lunchtime, and then you can gradually build it up. I have underactive thyroid and need to be careful as it's a metabolic condition, but I can usually manage eating, say, 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then not eating till maybe around midday. Any later than that doesn't suit me at all. You might want to try a keto diet if that's your thing, or some people like a carnivore diet. Some people thrive on a carnivore diet. We're all different. Try different things and see what works for you. I'm only really touching on ideas today. It's quite a long video, I suppose, but I'm just going through a few different things. What I have in the morning is hot water and lemon, often with a pinch of salt. And this is really important to have first thing in the morning because it kickstarts your system. It helps to flush out any toxins. And after a night of sleeping, you've lost your electrolytes, and especially in the warm weather, so you need to replace those. Don't be afraid of using pure sea salt. Don't use the table salt. That is not good sodium. Use pure kosher sea salt if possible, or Himalayan salt. You only just need a little pinch, but do use it in your cooking as well, because we do all need salt. It's a good form of magnesium as well, and that helps to counteract aches and pains, and especially in hot weather when you're sweating a lot, you need that magnesium, and especially as we get older as well. If you want to look in depth at anti-inflammatory diets, then a good channel is one here in the UK called Eat to Heal Guide. The gentleman behind Eat to Heal Guide is called Charlie, and he became a qualified nutritionist back in January. He's been on this health journey for about 3 years. He had, I believe, ulcerative colitis, so it really has transformed his life. It's not to say that you won't fall off the wagon. That's why I say if you really can't resist something, do have it occasionally, because I find with diets, if you stick rigidly to something, it just won't work. Your brain wants that thing more than ever. So that's all I'm touching on for today. If you want me to talk about anything else, then I'm happy to do another video. For example, we could look at magnesium rich foods in more detail, or I could do a video, say, on the health benefits of onions, as the red onion in particular, which is found in a Mediterranean diet, is very helpful. Anyway, if there's anything else that you'd like me to discuss or go through in more detail, do let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give me a like and please share. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. It's not essential, but it is free and you will see more of my content. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon for another video, whatever it may be. Until then, bye for now.